Welcome back to Chalkbox Talk. My name is Juan Jimenez, head coach of Austin Elite Gymnastics in Austin, Texas. But today we are in New Braunfels here at J&Rs talking to my good friend, Petey. At least I call you Petey.
Yeah.
I didn't know that your full name was Peter. Your last name is Peterson.
First name.
First name is Peterson.
Yeah.
And your last name is?
Pierre.
Pierre.
Yep.
I always get confused because all I've known from every time I see you, it's just always Petey. So Peterson Pierre.
Yep.
Welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Great.
How you doing?
I'm doing very good, man. I can't complain.
Before we get to talking shop, tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do, the program you have, where are you, how long you've been doing this.
Yeah. So I've been here at J&R since it's actually September now, right? So it'll be 6 years on the 24th that I've been here at J&R. I am now the team director here. I'm in charge. I oversee, our pre-team. We have pre-team 1, pre-team 2, level 3, and then I personally coach level 4 through 10s on all 4 events. My first 5 seasons, I coached here with Karen Medellin. She was my coaching partner. I had a handful of other coaches that were here during my tenure. And yeah, it's been good. I've been blessed to be able to be here, have an opportunity to grow as a coach. And yeah.
Tell us about your gear, dude. You can't talk about your coaching and not talk about why, part of the reason why we're here.
Yeah.
Tell us about your extracurricular activities here.
Yeah. So I also have a podcast that I started. I started about a year ago. The reason why I started it is because
what's the name of it?
To me, so the name of it is Heated Conversations, and the heat part of it is actually an acronym. I also have another side business that I do. It's a sports performance business, and it's named Heat Performance, but they both kind of have the same meaning with their acronym. So HEAT stands for Helping Equip Athletes to Transform. And so one day I was kind of sitting in the car and I was like, man, gymnastics athletes are taught how to run ineffectively, or not even taught at all how to run. And to me, at least, one of the most nerve-wracking levels that you can see in gymnastics is level 8, because that's the first time that they're required to flip out. At least they're able to, right? To be able to flip onto a hard landing surface. And, you'll see coaches trying to save athletes or athletes getting hurt, and hard to develop those things, which I know right now they're doing things in level 6 and 7 with the timers up to really address that. But to me, one of the biggest factors is their run. Because if you can't create power and speed and learn how to translate that into either the board the hand mat board, table, and then being able to land safely, then all the other stuff that we're doing doesn't really get to shine, right? And in gymnastics, I believe that the things that we do, before our big tricks are the reason why the big tricks can happen like they do, or suffer because whatever came in front of it. So if you don't have a powerful run that can translate into a powerful hurdle, that can turn over, or that can hit the board, that can create rotation and then stiffness in the body when you hit the table, and to be able to translate that into the rotation, and then also being able to, land, those things can really be detrimental to athletes, in my opinion. And so I wanted to first start something where I could have conversations and teach other coaches how to run, but it didn't turn into that. So where the podcast really started to develop was I reached out to a friend of mine who I met at a camp, and he was like, hey, I have another friend who kind of is into like media stuff, and he has his own YouTube channel and stuff like that. So I reached out about different ways to go about it. So he gave me like different ideas of what he did and stuff like that, and to start creating topic points. And then as I started creating those topic points, I came to the realization, because I also had athletes who went to universities and they didn't have a great experience almost right away. And so
that's a whole topic in and of itself. Yeah.
Right. And so the transfer portal part of it kind of came up, you know, and ultimately to me, I thought it was a huge personnel thing. And I'm like, you know what, there isn't a space really that talks to the coaches about who they are as people. And that's kind of where it started, was having conversations with different college coaches about who they are as people, and then from their perspective talk about their university and talk about their program and things that they expect, things that they like to do just on a personal standpoint, their own story. So then it could make a greater connection with possibly anybody who's of recruitable age that wants to, you know, learn about coaches, or even just for fans who want to know the coaches a little bit deeper. Because I know the athletes and, you know, make, you know, the gymnastics programs because that's who we see and we get to see them perform and stuff like that. But they have someone who leads them, you know, and sometimes in some cases, which could be unfortunate, could be not a great influence on that person, or it could be a great influence on that person that really gave them an opportunity to be able to do something that they loved. And so that's kind of why I started my podcast. And it's not just, you know, helping athletes transform, because I think you can consider anybody an athlete, right? Whoever's pursuing something and training for something greater. And I have had coaches on there. I've had athletes on there, collegiate athletes. I've had collegiate gymnastics coaches. I've had specialists in, you know, different areas of either mental blocks or even speed coaches or track coaches and stuff like that. And I kind of want to be able to help be a resource for parents, for athletes, for coaches, to be able to learn a little bit more when they're starting that recruiting process, or even in their gyms, ways to be able to help advance their gymnastics in ways that we don't really get access to as easily as other sports do.
That's great. And you've been it's been fruitful.
Yeah, to me, I think it has. Like, you know, lately I haven't really been able to pursue it as hard as I want.
It's hard, man.
Yeah, coaching, but I'm also in school, finishing my degree, and we can kind of talk about like the story behind, you know, why I'm at that point right now. But so there's a lot of other things in it, you know. For you probably know this, like taking time to do it and edit and all that stuff takes a lot of time, and so I just haven't had the opportunity to, and I have my own family and stuff like that. And so but once I kind of finish school, then I'll probably attack it a little bit harder, just because I'll have the free time to do it with my current schedule. And so for now, I've just, like, at the beginning of 2025, it was pretty heavy, or end of 2024, it was pretty heavy. I had a lot of content. Even just this year, I've probably released like 33 episodes or something like that.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. And so
this is my third one.
And so I, you know, and you can find them anywhere you listen to podcasts, or, you know, on YouTube if you want to watch them on YouTube. But, you know, I have a lot archived, you know, to be honest, I have some that I record at the beginning of the year that I still haven't released yet. And so I still kind of working on some of those to be able to kind of get those released, and some that I did this summer in person. Also, you know, recently sat down with a few people. So hoping to be able to get to the place where, you know, I'm able to get those out a little bit sooner, and even on a schedule as to where the audience can expect, you know, a schedule of, hey, this is when it's going to be out, when it's going to be released. But right now, I'm just not at that place.
I feel you 100%. Coaching takes up like the majority of my day, and more importantly, like the mental bandwidth. So by the end of the night, I'm like drained in a way where I'm like, oh my God, do I have to edit? Do I have to do this? Do I have to think about the, So I feel your pain.
Yeah.
I feel your pain. I feel like we can start this conversation off in a lot of ways now because you brought up the performance, the running. Do you want to talk shop on like a technical aspect first? Because I think we could dive into the vault thing for sure, just to get like real nerdy for the coaches out there, or we can get into more like philosophy, attacking the sport as a whole. I don't know. What would you like?
Yeah, so let me start off by kind of telling you my story a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
And then from there, I think that can kind of help kind of gauge kind of where we're going. So I'm originally from Minnesota. I'm of Haitian descent. So I immigrated here, I would say first generation American. And so growing up in Minnesota, I had pretty, I wouldn't say strict parents, but they just weren't as versed in the American culture. So I didn't really start doing sports myself until I was a sophomore in high school, and I started with track and field and wrestling. But at the same time, I got in trouble a lot when I was a kid. And so I wasn't able to always get those opportunities probably sooner, but also my parents just didn't know. And so when I started getting to sports, it gave me an opportunity to really start to change some of my habits that I had, some of the things I would get in trouble for. And I had our football coach at the time at the high school that I went to, who kind of really influenced me. And he influenced me during a class, my driver's ed class. And I was acting up, trying to be a clown in class. And he was like, you know what? He saw the value of who I was and kind of spoke into that, and it kind of got me into the weight room, got me into doing sports and stuff like that. And that was a huge plus for me. And I love people like growing up. Like I was a huge show off. Like I learned how to do flips and stuff when I was a kid. I was into dancing. Like I would do flips off the wall, off people's chests, off people's shoulders, off stages. I would perform all the time, and I like loved doing that kind of stuff. And so connecting to people was something that was super easy and something that I loved to do. But I didn't really have the guidance or really have the tools at the time, or wouldn't allow myself to really be led by other people. And so kind of fast track just a little bit. So I got into wrestling at first. So I did wrestling, and then track and field. I pole vaulted and I ran and I jumped, and then played football. I played a couple years of football in college as well as track. But then I went to a Division III school called Hamlin University that has a gymnastics program in St. Paul, Minnesota. And even when I went there, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I liked watching, Criminal Minds and those types of shows and stuff like that. And so I thought that's what I wanted to do, but I wasn't focused. I didn't go in with great academic grades. I didn't maintain great grades. And so I was kind of lost. But the one thing that happened right before I got into college was I was working with my mom. My mom was a manager at McDonald's. And so I had a job at McDonald's. I got approached by another high school's gymnastics coach and was like, hey, do you want to learn how to spot? But prior to that, he would always ask me about, different things. Because when I was in high school, I was pretty strong. I think I was probably pound for pound top 5 in my high school, strongest kids. Like I, developed strength pretty well. I could do the power movements and stuff like that. And so that's what he would always talk to me about. And then he learned that I could flip and all this other stuff. He was like, hey, do you want to learn how to spot? And in high school gymnastics, because back in my high school, that was like a big thing back in Minnesota. High school gymnastics was huge. And so in high school gymnastics, you can't coach your own athletes outside a season or 2 months in the summer, only if you have a waiver. And so they're like, hey, we need more males in the sport. And so I started to learn how to spot, and I started working with their development team, kind of like our compulsory would be. And so I started working with that group, and then started working with the high school kids. And I, became that person who could coach their athletes whenever their coaches couldn't. And so that also, connected me to, other high schools. And so I became an assistant. I started going to camps, college camps, D3 camps, Flip Fest, and stuff like that, which I connected with different coaches and stuff like that. So 2 years into college, I was out because again, I didn't maintain my academics. And so I ended up getting, having to leave school. Plus I left school with all this debt. I wasn't wise with my money and stuff like that. So I went and had an opportunity to coach at the high school level. So I went and I was an assistant coach for 2 years, and then had an opportunity to be a head coach at a high school for 3. And it was at a rival high school. So my rival high school that I ended up being the head coach at, which was kind of cool. And then I eventually got an opportunity to coach college gymnastics. And that kind of came about because I was at the University of Wisconsin Stout, where at the time Becky Bolio was a head coach. And so I had done that camp a few times. And then at that time, Utah State's head coach was Natalie Walsh. She was coaching the camp, and we were just walking back after one of our coaching days, and she had a book in her hand. And I just asked her about the book. And it was a Christian-based book. And I grew up in church. My dad's a pastor. And so that was something that was like really important to me. So I asked her about it. And that led to an opportunity to be able to be a volunteer assistant coach at Utah State. And so I was there for a season. She went to Illinois. And then as a volunteer, you may not really know where you might end up if someone knows you or not. And I didn't have any quote unquote credibility in the sport because I coach high school gymnastics, and even at that time it's not like we won state championships or anything like that. I didn't ever coach club, and so I didn't produce any athletes. I didn't coach at a different college before to really know. Being there for the 1 year, we did well, but it wasn't like to the point where it could be significant enough to be like, hey, I seen what you could do while you were there. And I had an opportunity to be an assistant coach. So at the University of Wisconsin Whitewater, and I was there for a season. It was a great experience. We had a great year. Happened to win a national championship. They won a national championship before, so I was part of a back-to-back for them. And they have had multiple national championships and national champions in the past. And it was also the last year that Division III could compete at Division I regionals. And so it was cool kind of being a part of that. And it gave me an opportunity to be in front of different level collegiate coaches and make connections. And so I started going to camps, to UCLA here and all these other opportunities. Now, how I landed here, I mentioned earlier how I never coached club gymnastics before.